Hello and welcome to another edition of Vinyl Night. I'm your groove thing, yeah, shake your groove thing, Johnny C. Tonight's episode, hit it, disco. Yes, uh, I have an affinity, relatability to disco. I've mentioned before, if you didn't know, that I'm a bass player and I can relate very well to the bass and drum of disco, funk. I enjoy the rhythm section part of it, so I have no trouble with disco. Back in the day, 70s, we used to have a disco bar right in town that had all the bells and whistles, the lights, and the ball going, and the mirror, and you could go and dance in there. And while I couldn't dance for the life of me, I used to be able to dance for the life of me because it didn't matter. That beat, that bass and drum, that always got me going. So let's take a look at the disco go around. First up, Tavares. Um, some of these albums are not going to be uh, maybe strictly disco. A lot of these albums, I might not have been familiar with the artist, but I would judge a book by the cover, and judging by the the back cover on this book, I could maybe make a guess that maybe these guys do at least funk, a lot of rhythm and blues, a lot of funk, a lot of disco music type things going on there. This one I was not familiar with, but I am now. Tavares. I don't know what their hit was. I don't recall a hit from them. If they did have one, I wasn't really familiar with it. So that brought me to another one that I picked up. This one is called Mass Production, 3 Miles High. Again, another band that I was not really familiar with, but I'm judging the book by the cover and taking a look at that and thinking, hmm, I'm thinking they must be doing at least something funky, which is going to be okay with me. Uh, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't necessarily, okay, what's the difference between disco and funk? Some people say it's the beat, the feeling, the danceability to it. Funk may be more of a groove. It's a toss up. There's a fine line sometimes in there, but for the most part, you kind of get the disco, more danceable, more four on the floor as they call it, instead of a funk groove on the James Brown on the one. Anyway, another band, Fatback. Another band that I was not necessarily familiar with, um, but when you take a look at it, I'm going, once again, there has to be at least something funky going on here. Um, and we have a Freak Party. One side is called Freak Party. I don't know if that's going to come out or not. I don't know why I bother doing that. Stick the thing up there to see if it's going to do it or not. One side is called Freak Party, and the other side is called Foot Stomping. Anyway, it's all music that I certainly like to listen to. No hit, that's all right. Another band that's kind of on the maybe the border of disco and R&B, funk. Rolls Royce, Car Wash is the song that comes to mind right away. Although Car Wash is not in this album. Um, there we go. I know what's going to be going on there. A lot of the records, it seemed like what they would like to do is have 4 songs on the side, up tempo, three, 4 songs up tempo, and then the one slow jam for the boys and girls to get out and slow jam to. Um, Here's one that right away I knew what the hit was, and that is, of course, Rock the Boat, the Hughes Corporation. Uh, that one was on the radio quite frequently, so there was no doubt that I knew I was going to get at least a hit on there, and take it from there. Don't rock the boat, baby. Yes. We have the Silvers, and once again, it's one of those records that I had to take a look at. Once I got to the back cover, though, I did see on the listing Boogie Fever, and that song I was, thank you, familiar with, Boogie Fever, and of course for some of the later fans might recognize it as one of the songs that was in the Despicable Me movie. The first one, I believe it was, Boogie Fever. Rhythm Heritage, and that was the SWAT theme song. One of those almost gonna fly now, big orchestration going on. That's what it almost reminded me of, is the theme from Rocky. Same kind of thing, chugga chugga, wah wah going on, and instrumentation, strings, heavy on the strings, and of course, take a look at that shoe. Excuse me. If that doesn't scream I'm going to be out dancing tonight, I don't know what does. Although I don't know how the hell somebody's going to dance in that. But hey, there we go. Rhythm Heritage. Thanks. Oh, is it time for a... No, you don't want to see that. I do have more Disco Lights. I do have other albums that I'm probably not going to, the more Saturday Night Fever, some Commodores, other things, etc., etc. But what we do have is the Gap Band, and this one, my favorite on this one is "You Dropped a Bomb on Me." I always enjoyed that song. "You Dropped a Bomb on Me." Gap Band, and once again, could be a fine line between R&B and disco, and maybe something a little more funky, but that's all, once again, subjective. Heatwave, Too Hot to Handle, and of course Boogie Nights was the song on Heatwave, so I knew what I was getting into when I saw this one, and of course it's a lesson to you vinyl collectors out there: don't leave your records in the heat, otherwise it's going to end up. One of my favorites, actually, this might be my favoriteest disco song, and that would be the Tramps' Disco Inferno. Every time Disco Inferno came on, I would be on that dance floor. It didn't matter if I was dancing with somebody or not. Disco Inferno is probably my all-time favorite disco song. And there's just something that, and this has a nice extended kind of cut on it. I don't recall it being the song that it was when they used to play it on the dance floor. Thank you very much. Thanks over here too. Another band, Ohio Players Gold. Whoops, sorry about that. Almost lost it. This is a nice gatefold, and of course the Ohio Players weren't shy about putting out a cover that might have been a little risque. I'm sure if you're familiar with the Ohio Players Honey, you get the idea of what's going on there. And if this wasn't really disco era enough for you, during the 70s, the signs of the apocalypse. Why did I think signs of the apocalypse? Your horoscope sign was a big thing back in the 70s for a while. And on the inside here, they have the the signs next to the artist on the album there. Merv, he plays the trumpets, trombone. Now, it's I can't Virgo. I see somebody's a Virgo. Man, I don't remember what some of these signs are. Another Virgo. I think one's a Gemini, one's a Cancer there. So anyway, you know we're in the 70s when they give out your astrological sign. A lot of good songs on here though. Love Roller Coaster, Fire, and my favorite on here, Hood She Coo. That's the Ohio Players. And of course, now we're going to get into the some of the offshoots of the disco albums that are laying around, but I still had to think about, you know, oh, yeah, I know, you don't want to see that. This is a compilation album. This is called Discotheque, the Magic Disco Machine, and this is on the Motown label. There wasn't anything that really was on here that was a song that I knew what it was, but it says it's Discotheque, and of course they got kind of risque with their album cover with the way they have low cut top on for the boys to check out the gal dancing on the disco scene there, and she is danced and ready to go for her disco night out. Another compilation that I have. Thanks. This one's called Discotheque, and it's the Discotheque Dance album. This one was really curious because it's not really disco music. They're calling it dance. They're doing King of the Road or Hang On Sloopy, but all they did was kind of speed it up a little bit. They just sped up the songs. They're not. It's not disco as you think of it. That with everything going on there. This one didn't make any sense, but I bought it and I listened to it and I went, thanks. This one is far out in gravy. It's disco from another galaxy, the Space Project. So just take your disco and maybe add a little more synthesizer to it, a little more bops and boops, and you pretty much have what this album is. Once again, it's nothing on here that I recall. I don't even know if there was anything that was ever on the radio from these people. Of course I didn't look, but it does say it's a gold record limited edition. So who, I don't know for sure, but I figured disco from another galaxy. I want to find out what they're playing on that galaxy. Thank you very much. Then we have maybe a semi-extreme opposite. Saturday Night Fiddler. Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops Orchestra doing disco versions of your favorite tunes. So, some artists got on the bandwagon back in the day. Thank you very much, Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops. So we're going to jump on that bandwagon. It's popular. Think of some of the mainstream artists that weren't necessarily disco, but put out disco things. Rod Stewart, disco flavored songs, even the Rolling Stones, disco flavored tunes. And I can't even think now who the heck else. And should have thought of it beforehand. before I started going off on a tangent like that about who else used to put out disco songs that weren't a disco band. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's plenty of them. So think of it for yourself. Uh, Another one that I picked up. This one was called Span Disco. The cover is in really tough shape on this one. It's water damaged. There's that dreaded sticker again. I'm not going to be able to try and get that off, although this cover is not as in nice shape as it might. Well, I'll have to take a look at the recording afterwards and see how tough it really is. But it has been. I don't know if somebody left it in the lake in the rain or what. This was interesting, Span Disco, and it's exactly what it says. It's kind of a just adding maybe, you know, some timbales, you know, maybe a little more percussion element to it than your regular disco, and they're just trying to give it, you know, a Latino flavor. It's not a bad album though. I didn't mind it. Thanks. So everybody was getting in on the disco craze. We had the Span Disco. And of course, from the Span Disco, we had to have big band disco. Well, you know, it's not good enough to have that. In the Mood, Take the A Train, Chattanooga Choo Choo, all done in your disco styled version. Let's get on the cash crop while we can. Thanks. The Chattanooga Disco Band. And of course, swing disco, swing era classics played in an exciting new way. So I don't even remember. I just know there's Rico and Lola. It's like they've gonna be out at the Copacabana out there. I don't even remember listening to this. I'm the Sunshine Terrace Swing Band. I'm sure I put it on, listened to it. Thank you very much. And the cream of this crop, and one that everybody should rush out and get as soon as they can. The Ethel Merman disco album. Yep. Even, not much on the old back cover there. Even Ethel Merman had to get in on the disco craze. You haven't heard a version of There's No Business Like Show Business until you heard Ethel Merman sing it in the disco stylings that she does. Worth it just for that. So, there you have it. The old disco check. Get the lights going. Get out. Boogie fever. Hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Shake your groove thing. Yeah, yeah. Good night.